So in case for some reason you missed the other day, Konami announced a brand new Master Duel game for Yu-Gi-Oh! It's coming in 2021 apparently, and we have no idea what it will be, but there's been speculation, rumours, discussion, and I'm here to throw my hat into the ring and see what we could be seeing in 2021. Let's take a look. So first of all, what do we know officially at least? It's a digital title based on the Master Duel's mechanics. That's your 5 zones, fusion, synchro, exceeds, pendulum, link monsters, 8,000 life points, 40 card main deck, 15 card extra deck, 15 card side deck. That's the standard rules for the TCG and the OCG. It's been described on stream by Konami as like Duel Links, but with Master Duels. And I think this one's obvious, but it's likely been in development since pre-COVID, so this isn't a direct response to that, but you can surely think that they'll have this at the back of their mind when developing this game. So we have a few options. On one hand, you have the people who wants to be a game, like Duel Links, like Tag Force, Legacy of the Duelist. Or you have the mainly TCG crowd who really want an official simulator. Something like Dueling Book or Edo Pro, that kind of thing. Konami, official Konami, use it in tournaments, that kind of thing. So let's go through all those options and see what those business models might look like and rank them, see their problems, etc. And of course, if you want to stay up to date on all the latest news of this new Master Duel game, Duel Links, Rush Duels, hit the subscribe button down below. We're working towards 50k this year, so let's get on that. Anyway, let's start off with my personal prediction, Duel Links but Master Duels edition, just as they described. So this one I think is the most likely. We'll have a custom format, new cards released via packs and events like we do currently. I think they'll be a bit slower and we'll have a bigger box once every 2 months, but we will be starting from fresh like Duel Links. Not from scratch, not from LOB, but just a new format like a TCG2, a TCG reset, but we'll have characters to unlock, we'll have a brand new metagame, and it will be new, fun, and surprising. Now, as I said, a custom card pool doesn't mean starting from normal monsters, vanillas like we had in Duel Links day one. I think we could see some links, some exceeds, some pens, some synchros, some fusions, just sprinkled in here and there. And over time, they just build up the mechanics, make them more complex, and you can then get a feel for every part of the game from day one. And so, you're kind of throwing people in the deep end, but also you're giving them the biggest experience of the TCG, and that lets them make an easier transition from this game to the TCG cards. And of course, it will use in-game currency / money to buy packs like gems, like we have in Duel Links right now. Hopefully, we'll have an expanded match system for PvP, which, and by that I mean you're having 3 duels, you're doing your side decking, at least for ranked mode. The game essentially will be Duel Links, but with Master Duels, and that's kind of what I think Konami is going to do. It makes the most sense revenue-wise, and in terms of overall player base and appeal. So, the other options. It could also be a new World Championship or Tag Force style game, mainly single player with a story mode, and then you have the PvP kind of tacked on. An actual quality console and PC Yu-Gi-Oh game, which we haven't had for the longest time. Not like Legacy of the Duelist, something actually good, but recurring revenue, the player base. Live service games are super important, and Duel Links generates so much revenue for Konami, so I don't see this game being it. But we did get the Rush Duels game announced for Switch, and I think that game has more chance of being like a Tag Force or a World Championship game, so if you want that, then that might be the option for you. And based on a bunch of job listings from the past 6 or 7 months, it's also likely this game will be a PC and console game primarily, and then, work its way to mobile in a few years, depending on how they think it's going to clash with Duel Links. You don't want to kind of sabotage one product. Duel Links, of course, is very big on mobile. On PC, it's not really there. The player base is in the 20,000s at times, and that's about it. So, but crossplay is a must for this game, and that way, they have all their grounds covered in terms of games. So let's turn our heads to the official simulator. There are lots of logistical issues when it comes to this one. Obviously, you have things like Magic Arena and Pokemon TCG Online that do it, but those are on set rotation, so it's easier to manage the day one launch and getting people into playing the game. If you're launching with one set, that's a lot better than launching with infinite number of cards from a game that's 20 years old. We also need to consider the competition in the non-official simulators that are fan-made, that are free, And if Konami doesn't match the feature set of those games, then this game just won't do anything, especially if they are going to be all in on the competitive environment, which I think is the worst idea in terms of attracting casual fans, having the biggest player base. If people really wanted to play Yu-Gi-Oh!, they would play Edo Pro or Waijo Pro, whatever. I think a big reason for, Duel Links being so popular is because it is a easily accessible game, and it is that part. It's a game. It's not primarily just meant to be a simulator. You can do other things than just duel in PvP. But again, it all depends on their scope for the game. They might think that's fine and have it be a smaller thing, or they could go wider and try and do that. Okay, so let's get into the minor details. Assume that every card made in the TCG and OCG is in the game by default on day one. How do you fairly monetize that from Konami's perspective? First option, entirely free to play, all cards for you day one. They just make money via cosmetics, mats, sleeves, backgrounds, character skins, that kind of thing. That is the ideal situation for the players and not for Konami. So that would be the one I think people want the most, but will they do it? Probably not. Secondly, free to play, but you pay money and gems. But there is no game around it. This is kind of similar to the Duel Links-esque version, but you have all the cards day one. So day one will be very, very expensive. If you have things from LOB through to, what's the newest set now? Genesis Impact. All day one, you have to either grind gems out immediately to get all the cards from Maximum Crisis or from Power the Duelist, or you get your card out, you spend a shit ton of money, and off the bat, it doesn't seem very friendly to new players. And that issue of forcing people into older boxes to buy staples day one is going to really come down to also how the pack design is. Will it be like Duel Links, where every card in the set you can physically go through a box once, get all the cards, then reset? Or will it be like MTG Arena or Pokemon, where you're just pulling from the infinite card pool and trying to pull packs like you would in a booster box? If it's the latter system, that day one expense then just shoots right up if you can't have a trading or dusting system, which Duel Links hasn't done properly. And so will they do it for the TCG in this new game? We don't know. Another option is it's free to play with a subscription fee attached, which I think is the worst model. Obviously it works for things like World of Warcraft, which has a lot of single player content, multiplayer content, that kind of thing. If you're just saying, hey, here's all the cards, you can pay $50 a month for it, then yes, you will get that, that competitive crowd in. But will you get the casuals? No, because they won't spend the money. And if they've got to play with a certain card pool, if you're limiting the card pool again by that subscription fee, then they won't play. Because at least in Duel Links, or other games, they can play for free, get the majority of the cards over time, and then compete with their friends who are paying day one and paying money and getting, guaranteed ultra rares in their sale packs. I think this one is the least likely by far, and also they could do a dual generation system where they limited cards to a free to play and pay to play card pool, which again just splits that audience even more so than Duel Links did. Now, in fairness, it was cheaper on Dual Gen. You could go and buy a Mermail deck for £4 in Dual Gen, whereas you could have spent £200 in Duel Links and it not have been a single bit competitively viable. So there's swings and roundabouts to both systems, but Dual Gen was a US game developed by Legacy Duelist team. It was Konami US's main first venture to mobile Yu-Gi-Oh!, so understandable. And of course, you could have a paid upfront game like Legacy Duelist, but obviously be better than Legacy Duelist, which works in the short term. If you have all the cards day one, that's a pretty good value. I think people would go for that. But then you need to make sure that that £40 purchase day one gets you in forever. Now, if every card isn't upfront, but you want to stick to the TCG simulator kind of thing, then just do a CMOS progression series, and you say, let's start from LOB and work our way up. Now, this isn't the same as the Duel Links option because that would be its own custom format, and that gets around certain issues that we're going to talk about later, but there's issues here too. For starters, cards released in different, sets, boosters, tins, years, products in the OCG and TCG, and some of these promo star decks and tins, other regions didn't get. So how do you organize things there? How do you handle reprint sets? Things like Dual Overload or Genesis Impact or the Destiny Master set. They brought in a ton of new cards, but also They reprinted things like Foolish Burial and the Nightmares and all these kind of things. Why would I, as a player, pull from, Flames of Destruction for these secret rare Nightmares, when I can pull from Genesis Impact and get the rare versions for way cheaper? It's a thing they're going to have to think about if they wanted to do that route, which I think is why they probably wouldn't go down that route of saying, let's start from the beginning and work our way up. You also then know exactly what's going to happen to the meta, you know? Because history will repeat itself without any unique elements in the game, like skills. History will completely repeat itself. You know Pot of Greed is getting banned. You know Reborn's going to get banned at some point. It will limit people from investing in decks they want to play early on because they know what's coming. They know what happens. So if you're going back in time and doing this progression series with your actual game, you're going to hurt yourself because people aren't going to invest in things early on if they know in 4 months' time there's going to be a ban list that hits the card. Oh, I don't know. It's a real tough decision because trying to come up with how they're going to do this, and it's more so tough when you think about it as a TCG sim, because remember, the game is being developed internally by Konami Japan, which is really important because the game is very likely, if it hasn't been confirmed already, I was kind of reading mixed reports, it's going to be worldwide, like Duel Links, which means you then have a few different options and all of them have major drawbacks. Again, we're talking specifically about a core simulator here, not a custom format thing like Duel Links. So do you split the card pool to what's available in each region? Japan gets one thing, rest of the world gets another. You also split a ban list, and by doing that, you split the player base, set release dates, etc. Practically, you're running two separate games under the same name. Do you do that, confuse the player base, and limit your total players? Do you keep the card pool the same, and share a ban list that's a combination of both the OCG and the TCG? This is what Legacy Duels Link Evolution did, and people hated it. This means that players of the OCG will have to wait months on end for them to play with cards they can go and buy in stores right now, and TCG peeps also won't be able to play with any of their TCG exclusives, which usually are pretty decent. You know, this year they've not been that great, but the benefit is you would share a large player base, but with both sides losing cards they can play in the physical game. Now, the Duel Links route of an entirely custom format pretty much solves this completely. Of course, if they decide to use this game for any form of Worlds event, then they would be using a joint ban list anyway, so it wouldn't matter that much in the grand scheme of things, but it really depends where they want to position this as a game and if people will kind of accept that. Now, another thing is rulings. Now, I'm sure TCG players that play online are kind of used to having to use different rulings, but given this would be an OCG-based game developed in Japan, it's very likely the game will use OCG rulings for cards. Duel Links does it, Tag Force does it, Legacy Duels uses the TCG rulings because that was a TCG game, but if the game is global, then they're going to use OCG rulings, so certain cards won't work like they do in a TCG, as people are going to come to expect. And then of course you have the issue of if the game is going to be constantly updated, free to play, you know, all cards added in the same day they release in the physical card game, does this eventually run the issue of phasing out the TCG? Obviously in 2020 it's been kind of rough, you know, to go and play card games and go to events and stuff, but does this game, being a simulator, a full-on simulator, have the potential, if it's really good, to completely kill the TCG? Or is that Konami's goal? Do they want everything to be digital online and to cut that cost out of their game? I really don't know, but it would be interesting to see what would happen. And that's kind of all I have for this. A very long video actually. Jesus Christ, that's about 16 minutes or so should be once I cut out all the fluff and stuff, but that's my thoughts on the game so far. There's a very clear, you know, if they want to stay to the Duel Links but Master Rule thing, I think that one as a game works best. I think that one as a monetization system works best because Konami have a track record of doing it. You know, you can get near enough every free-to-play card, you know, every card for free if you do some grinding. But if they want to go the simulator route, if they want to do that TCG OCG simulator, then there is a ton of compromise, which I think people haven't really looked into, especially if it will be a game with a shared player base and global. Anyway, let me know down below what you think of this new game coming soon again. subscribe for more news on the game, that kind of thing. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you all in next Duel Links video. It's not a Duel Links video, is it? See you then.